The early 1920s also saw the development of catapults, arresting gear, a faster elevator to clear the flight deck, safe fuel handling techniques, a landing light system, and all the other hardware needed to launch and land, to refuel and maintain aircraft at sea. All this while, we were doing more than learning the mechanical and flight techniques of operating the carrier and its planes. We were also developing carrier doctrine, the theory of how the naval air arm should operate, including some new ideas of the strategy, the maneuvers a carrier-supported fleet might use in war. Lexington and Saratoga were improvements over the old Langley. But as carriers, both were compromises. The best we could do with converted cruiser hulls whose flight decks had to take increasingly faster and heavier planes. But both the Lexington and Saratoga served us well. We knew this was really the first unveiling of carrier aviation. Others knew it too. Others, like the F-4B, became workhorses for the fleet. This rapid development of aircraft had a profound influence on carriers.
As the USS Los Angeles joined the flight, on the 3rd of November, Akron carried 207 persons aloft, establishing a long-lasting record. As 1931 came to an end, Akron had logged some 300 air hours. Personnel could transfer from ship to ship. Hand-carried provisions were threaded down through the centerline passage to the main ring 170, then outboard and aft. Connections just below the nose spindle carried fuel, ballast water, helium, portable water, and electrical power from the tender. Provisions pumped aboard had to be carefully controlled. Commands were signaled from the bridge via rotary annunciator similar to an engine telegraph. Some 12,000 pounds of oil and about 110,000 pounds of gasoline would be loaded evenly along the keels. The tender's mast allowed servicing the airship while on duty with the fleet, requiring only a sheltered body of water. The successful experiment opened the door to distant deployments of the airship. The pilots developed techniques for repeatable success hooking on the trapeze. They would side-slip into the airship's boundary layer, powering to slightly above the target, then stalling out so the hook fell on the bar and latched securely. If not perfectly centered, kicking the plane's rudder would usually center the hook. The U-shaped bar simultaneously lowered the aircraft into launch position. When ready, the pilot pulled his release handle to open the hook. In an instant, the plane's weight carried it out of the slipstream as the pilot applied throttle to proceed. But there were teething problems. During one evolution, a hook jammed when the release cable had slackened and the airplane would not drop off. A few minutes pounding freed the mechanism in this case, but this kind of delay would be intolerable in combat. Eventually, the entire hook and release mechanism was redesigned. The airship needed a fast, stable scout, and having a second man to observe, navigate, and operate the radio would have been ideal. But the N2Ys were slow and lacked the range to scout for the airship. Former training aircraft, they did not even have radios to report their sightings.